uh, you stopped waiting for it. Not dramatically, not with a conscious decision or a moment of formal closure where you told yourself that this particular thing was no longer something you were going to hold space for. It happened the way most quiet surrenders happen, gradually, through the accumulated weight of time passing without the thing arriving, until the hope for it became something you held with such looseness that it was almost no longer holding. Almost because there was still a part of you that could not fully let it go. That part knew something the rest of you had been working to accept, that the story was not finished, that the silence between you and whoever this involves was not the silence of something concluded, but the silence of something that had not yet found its form. That part was right. And what it has been waiting for is almost here. I want to begin with what stopped you from expecting this. Because the title says you thought you would never have it, and that thought deserves its examination. Not because the thought was wrong about the difficulty, but because understanding why you had given up helps you understand the full weight of what is about to arrive. The reason you stopped expecting it is that the person you expected it from gave you no reason to keep expecting it. They were not in the business of confessing. Not to you, possibly not to anyone. There is a particular kind of person whose relationship with their own interior life involves a deliberate maintenance of distance from what they actually feel, especially what they feel about things that matter, especially what they feel about people who matter, who has learned through whatever their specific history required of them, that keeping feeling private is safer than offering it to the world in a form that can be responded to. You encountered that person, and you interpreted the silence correctly. You understood that the silence was not indifference. You felt the thing underneath it. But understanding that something exists underneath a surface that refuses to break does not make living with the unbroken surface any less difficult. So at a certain point, you stopped pressing, and then, without quite deciding to, you stopped expecting. Let me describe what I am seeing, because the image is specific. A pressure that has been building for a very long time, not visible from the outside, not producing any of the external signs that would have given you reason to believe the surface was about to break. Simply building the specific, patient, entirely interior accumulation of something that has nowhere to go except forward, that cannot continue to be held in the form it has been held in indefinitely, that has been approaching its own threshold at a pace that had nothing to do with your presence or your patience or your availability, at its own pace, which has turned out to be slower than yours, and the threshold has arrived. Not because of anything you did, not because of anything you said or withheld or positioned or strategically arranged, because the pressure simply reached the point that pressure always eventually reaches when it is genuine and when it is allowed sufficient time, the breaking point. And what breaks is the silence. I want to speak to what this confession actually contains, because the word confession can carry different qualities, and I want to give you the specific texture of this one. This is not a casual disclosure, not something that arrives lightly as an afterthought in the middle of a conversation that was about something else. What is coming has been composed and recomposed inside this person for a significant stretch of time, has been started and stopped and reconsidered and returned to, has been the subject of more private internal revision than most people apply to things they communicate publicly with the expectation of wide audience. It has been revised for you, the specific you, not a generic recipient, the you that this person knows, that they have been observing and understanding and thinking about for longer than you may realize. The you that exists in their awareness with a specificity and a completeness that suggests an attention you were not necessarily aware of receiving. They know you well, and what they are preparing to confess has been calibrated in whatever way a genuine feeling can be calibrated through the process of finally deciding to name it, to be worthy of being offered to someone who is known that well. EM, I want to speak to who this person is, not their name, their quality, the energetic texture of them as I am reading it. There is a containment to them. The specific practiced quality of someone who does not offer their interior easily, who has a complex, rich, fully inhabited inner world that most people around them do not have full access to, who presents a version of themselves in most interactions that is real but not complete, that shows certain things and keeps other things behind a line that most people do not approach because most people do not notice the line is there. You notice the line. You have been on the near side of it for some time, closer than most people get, close enough to sense what lives on the other side without having been officially given access. Close enough that the specific quality of what they have been keeping behind the line has been something you could feel even when you could not see it directly. That is not an accident. They let you get that close, not by lowering the line, by allowing you to be present at a proximity where the line becomes visible, where the quality of what it is protecting can be felt even through the protection. That is their version of intimacy before the intimacy is official and the official is coming. That is their version of intimacy before the intimacy is official and the official is coming. I want to describe what being this close to someone's line actually feels like, because I think you have experienced something very specific with this person, and naming it accurately will help you recognize the reading as landing on the right situation. It feels like almost like being in a conversation that is full and genuine and real, and that contains somewhere underneath the surface of what is being exchanged a version of the conversation that is larger than the one happening. Like the actual exchange is the visible portion of something whose submerged portion is considerably more significant. Like both of you are aware of the submerged portion and have developed a sophisticated, largely unspoken agreement to conduct the visible exchange with full engagement while acknowledging the submerged portion only through the specific qualities of attention and care and the particular way certain silences are held. You have been in that almost for a while. The almost is ending. What comes after almost has been waiting patiently on the other side of it for the person who had to cross first to cross. They are crossing. Let me speak to what made this person finally reach the point of the confession, because things do not simply tip on their own. There is always a specific something that functions as the final weight on a scale that has been approaching its tipping point. A moment or an experience or an encounter with a particular quality of clarity that converts a long-held intention into an imminent action. I feel this clearly. Something shifted in how they understood the cost of continuing the silence. Not a new calculation. The same calculation they have been running, but with a new variable. The variable of what they are losing by continuing to hold this privately, rather than what they risk by offering it. Up until recently, the risk of offering had been weighted more heavily in their internal accounting. The specific vulnerability of saying something true to someone who matters and not knowing how it will be received had functioned as sufficient reason to maintain the silence. Something changed the waiting. The calculation now runs differently. The cost of the silence has become the larger number. The specific, accumulating, no longer ignorable cost of not saying something that has been asking to be said for a long time, that has been affecting how they exist in the world in ways they can no longer pretend are not being affected. The silence is costing them more than the risk now. And that shift in the accounting is what is producing the movement toward you. I want to pause here because I feel something in the energy of those watching this that deserves direct acknowledgement. Some of you have been carrying the weight of this silence for a very long time. Not just the absence of the confession, the specific, daily, mostly private weight of being someone who knows something is there, who can feel the thing that the other person will not name, who has had to make peace with loving or caring for or being in proximity to someone whose interior is enormous and whose offering of that interior has been so limited that you have sometimes questioned your own perception of how large the thing is. You have not been imagining it. The thing is, as large as you have been sensing it, what arrives in this confession is not going to be smaller than what you suspected was there. It is going to match. Tell me in the comments if that lands somewhere specific. If the person I have been describing, the contained one, the one whose line you have been close enough to feel, arrived clearly in your awareness. I want to know how this reading is reaching you. Let me speak to the moment of the confession itself, because it deserves to be described before it arrives, so that you can be present for it fully when it does. It will not begin directly. People who have been containing something for as long as this person has been containing it do not open conversations with the essential thing. They circle first, not deceptively. The circling is itself a form of approach, a way of getting close enough to the territory that the leap to the thing becomes possible, a way of establishing the conditions in which the saying is survivable. You will feel the circling. There will be a quality to the conversation that is different from the usual quality, a heightened attention, a specific carefulness in how they are choosing their words. That is not the ordinary carefulness of someone having a normal conversation, but the particular carefulness of someone who is moving towards something and who is trying to arrive at it with as much precision as what they are carrying deserves. And then there will be a moment where the circling stops, where a particular word or phrase or silence lands with a weight that signals that the essential thing is now directly adjacent, that the remaining distance is almost nothing, that what comes next is either the thing or the retreat from the thing. In the moment I am reading, it is the thing, not the retreat. The thing. In the moment I am reading, it is the thing, not the retreat. The thing. I want to describe what the moment between the circling and the thing actually feels like in real time, because I think knowing this will help you stay present rather than bracing against it when it arrives. It feels like the air changes, not metaphorically. The specific quality of the atmosphere between two people in a conversation shifts when the circling stops and the real thing is about to be said. Something becomes slightly more still, slightly more charged. The specific quality of two people who are both aware simultaneously that what comes next is significant and that there is nothing either of them can do to stop its significance now that it has reached this proximity to being spoken. In that moment, you will feel it before you hear it. The specific, unmistakable quality of someone who is about to say something true and important and irreversible arriving at the moment of saying it. Let that feeling be what it is. Do not fill the moment with something to make it more comfortable. Let it be the full size of what it is, and then receive what comes out of it. I want to speak to what the thing actually is, because I have been describing around it, and I want to honor the specificity of what I feel. What this person confesses is not a simple declaration of feeling. It is the acknowledgement of a history. The admission that the specific quality of who you are has been present in their awareness and in their interior life for a significant period of time in a way that is not casual and is not easily categorized and is not something they have found a way to resolve or replace or move on from, despite whatever attempts in those directions may have occurred. They are going to tell you that you have mattered. In the specific past tense, that is also present tense, way that things which have been true for a long time are true, that are not new feelings dressed up in the language of something discovered, that are old, settled, familiar feelings finally being permitted the form of language, and underneath the admission of the history, something more current, the acknowledgement of where things stand right now, of what this person wants, of what they have been managing toward not wanting because the wanting felt too large or too risky or too uncertain of its reception to be offered directly. The wanting is being offered directly. At last, I want to speak to how you receive this, because the receiving is as important as the delivery, and you deserve to walk into it with some preparation. Your first instinct is going to be to manage your response, to organize what you feel into something appropriate to the moment before the moment has finished landing, to protect yourself from the full size of what is arriving by converting it immediately into something you are processing rather than something you are inside. Do not do that. Not this time. This is a moment that has been a long time coming and that has cost both of you in different ways and to different degrees the specific carrying of what neither of you has been able to say. It deserves to be received at its full size, to be in contact with directly without the protective layer of immediate processing. Let it land before you respond. Let there be a breath between the landing and the response, a moment of simply being in the receipt of something that you had stopped expecting, of letting the fact of its arrival be fully real before you begin the work of figuring out what to do with it. The figuring out can come, it will come, but there's something that happens in the unmediated moment of receipt that the processing can never reconstruct afterward. Something true about what you actually feel that only exists in that first unguarded contact with the thing before your mind has organized it. Stay in that moment as long as it lasts. As we close, I want to give you one image that I think captures the full texture of what is coming. Something being offered with both hands, not casually, not as something that can be taken back if the reception is not what was hoped for, with the specific, slightly irreversible quality of a full offering, the both hands quality of something that the person carrying it has decided is no longer theirs to keep. That has been held long enough. That belongs in the space between you rather than only in the interior of one person. I want to stay with the both hands image for a moment because I think it is the truest thing in this reading. Offering something with both hands means offering it without keeping a portion in reserve. without the one hand behind the back insurance policy of having maintained some private portion of the thing that can be quietly reclaimed if the offering is not received the way it was hoped, without the safety net of partial disclosure that allows a person to say later that they did not say exactly what it sounded like they said. Both hands means all of it. And what this person is preparing to offer you with both hands is the full, unmodified, unhedged version of what has been there, not the version they could take back, not the version that leaves room for later disambiguation, the real version, which is, as these things tend to be, considerably larger and considerably more specific than anything they have offered you before. That space between you has been waiting for this for longer than either of you has been comfortable acknowledging. And when it arrives, when the offered thing lands in the space between you, and the space between you changes because of what is now in it, something that has been slightly wrong in the way things have been arranged will correct itself, not dramatically, in the specific, quiet, deeply satisfying way that things correct themselves when the truth finally occupies the space that was always its rightful place. You are about to receive the confession you thought you would never have, and it is going to be everything it was always supposed to be.